New Babylonian Empire, Battle of Opis. By the year 540 BC, Cyrus captured Elam, Susiana, and its capital, Susa. The Nabonidus Chronicle records that prior to the battles, Nabonidus had ordered cult statues from outlying Babylonian cities to be brought into the capital, suggesting that the conflict had been possibly in the winter of 540 BC. Near the beginning of October, Cyrus fought the Battle of Opis in or near the strategic riverside city of Opis on the Tigris, north of Babylon. The Babylonian army was routed, and on October 10, Sippar was seized without a battle. With little to no resistance from the populace, it is probable that Cyrus engaged in negotiations with the Babylonian generals to obtain a compromise on their part and therefore avoid an armed confrontation. Nabonidus was staying in the city at the time and soon fled to the capital Babylon, which he had not visited in years. 2 days later, on October 7, proleptic Gregorian calendar, Gabriel's troops entered Babylon again without any resistance from the Babylonian armies and detained Nabonidus. Herodotus explains that to accomplish this feat, the Persian using basin dug earlier by the Babylonian queen Nitocris to protect Babylon against Median attacks diverted the Euphrates River into a canal so that the water level dropped to the height of the middle of a man's thigh, which allowed the invading forces to march directly through the river bed to enter at night. On October 29, Cyrus himself entered the city of Babylon and detained Nabonidus. Prior to Cyrus' invasion of Babylon, the Neo Babylonian Empire had conquered many kingdoms. In addition to Babylonia itself, Cyrus probably incorporated its subnational entities into his empire, including Syria, Judea, and Arabia, Italia. Although there is no direct evidence of this fact. After taking Babylon, Cyrus the Great proclaimed himself King of Babylon, King of Summer and Akkad, King of the four corners of the world. In the famous Cyrus cylinder, an inscription deposited in the foundations of the Isagila temple, dedicated to the chief Babylonian god Marduk. The text of the cylinder denounces Nabonidus as impious and portrays the victorious Cyrus pleasing the god Marduk. It describes how Cyrus has improved the lives of the citizens of Babylonia, repatriated displaced people, and restored temples and cult sanctuaries. Although some have asserted that in the context of a long standing Mesopotamian tradition of new rulers beginning their reign with declaration of reform. Cyrus the Great's dominion comprised the largest empire the world had ever seen. At the end of Cyrus' rule, The Achaemenid Empire stretched from Asia Minor in the west to the northwestern areas of India in the east. Croesus on the Pyre, Attic red figure amphora 500 to 490 BC. This is the region on which Cyrus ruled. Cyrus entered Babylon in triumph. The Persian Empire, Cyrus the Great 559 to 530. This is also Persian Empire. The Achaemenid Empire under Cyrus' rule extended approximately from Turkey, Israel, Georgia, and Arabia in the west to Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, the Indus River, Pakistan, and Oman in the east. Persia became the largest empire the world had yet seen. Cyrus in Babylon and the Jewish connections. Cyrus the Great is unconditionally praised in the Jewish sources. It is likely that after the Persian conquest of Babylon, Cyrus had commenced his relationship with the Jewish leaders in exile, and that he later was considered as a Messiah sent by God. The Hebrew Bible states that Cyrus issued the decree of liberation to the Jews. Cyrus' edict for the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem marked a great epoch in the history of the Jewish people. According to Ezra 4 1 to 6, the enemies of Judah and Benjamin asked to help build the temple, and when this was denied, hired counselors to frustrate the people of Judah from completing the rebuilding throughout the reign of Cyrus. Xerxes, Ahasuerus, and Artaxerxes. Until the reign of Darius, the work recommended under the exhortations of the prophets, and when the authorities asked the Jews what right they had to build a temple, they referred to the decree of Cyrus. Darius, who was then reigning, caused a search for this alleged decree to be made, and it was found in the archives at Ecbatana, whereupon Darius reaffirmed the decree, and the work proceeded to its triumphant close. A chronicle drawn up just after the conquest of Babylonia by Cyrus gives the history of the reign of Nabonidus, the last king of Babylon, and of the fall of the Babylonian Empire in 538 BC. There was a revolt in southern Babylonia. While the army of Cyrus entered the country from the north, in June the Babylonian army was completely defeated at Opis, and immediately afterwards Sippara opened its gates to the conqueror. Gobryas, the governor of Media, was then sent to Babylon, which surrendered without fighting, and the daily services in the temples continued without a break. In October, Cyrus himself arrived and proclaimed a general amnesty, which was communicated by Gobryas to all the provinces of Babylon, of which he had been made governor. Meanwhile, Nabonidus, who had concealed himself, was captured but treated honorably, and when his wife died, Cambyses II, the son of Cyrus, conducted the funeral. Cyrus now assumed the title of king of Babylon, claimed to be the descendant of the ancient kings, and made rich offerings to the temple. At the same time, he allowed the foreign populations who had been deported to Babylonia to return to their old homes, carrying with them the images of their gods. Among these populations were the Jews, who, as they had no images, took with them the sacred vessels of the temple. Speculations abounds to the reasoning for Cyrus' release of the Jews from Babylon.